everyone, and welcome to Planning My Chronic Life, my little corner of YouTube where we talk about all things planning around my chronic illnesses. Please excuse the light today if it fades in and out a little bit. The wind is blowing the leaves outside, so it's changing the light a little bit as we go. Also, the setup for my camera today is a little bit different. I have put my back out, so I've had to adjust my desk and tripod and all those sorts of things, so this is a little bit more zoomed in than I'm used to, so hopefully I can manage to keep it in the middle of the frame. Okay, so as promised in my last video, I am today talking about the start of my goal planning process for 2025. So I go through a few steps to get to the goals that I want to work on in the next year. So I just thought I'd show you here. This is how I had my breakdown for this year that's we're currently in. So I set my goals right up the front in this goal planning spread that's in the Sterling Ink Common Planner. So the someday and the 1 year, and that gave me something to work towards. And then I broke down those goals, so you'll see also they're color-coded dots based on the goal area or the category of the goals. And so then I've broken down some of those goals that fit into those areas into different quarters of the year and then categorize them by the different colors as well. So that sort of helps me to know that I'm planning out my goals with a bit of balance, so I'm not just concentrating on one area at a time, though sometimes that's what we need to do. So it's whatever works best for you. So today I'm going to have a look at the reflection part of setting my goals. So this is just an old notebook. I think it came from Officeworks back in the day. Yep, can't even see the name on it. So I think it's just an old Officeworks notebook. It's a pretty good one in that it's got a nice cover on it. It lays flat fairly well. I've had it for a few years. I tend to dip in and out of this one more for when I am doing goal planning. So this has actually got my 2020 in it. I think I switched over to a different notebook for the years in between, and now I've come back to this one. So I like to start off a new section, and so we're going to look at the 2025 goal planning. So the first step in my goal planning is to have a look back at the last year, so call that the reflection. So what I'm going to do is, because I don't have a website or anything like that set up at this stage, I'm going to just dump into the description box a whole list of questions that you can choose which ones. You don't have to do all of them. Some of them sort of group together, some of them cover similar areas, but pick a few questions at least to go through your previous planner and have a look at what you did with your goals in the last year. So some of the questions that I've covered in mine are, how do I feel about the past year, and given it a rating out of 10. What 3 words would I use to describe the last year? And then a bit of a brief summary of what I found. I've listed some lowlights and then tried to list more highlights than lowlights. What were the good things about the year? Then going on from that, things that I'm most proud of, good decisions that I made, things that I would like to leave behind or do less of next year, things that I want to do more of next year, and then things that I'm grateful for. So I do a daily gratitude, so these are some of those bigger gratitudes for the whole year. Some of my strengths, some of my weaknesses, if there was anything that I'd change in the last 12 months, the 3 biggest lessons from this year. The important part of this one is how I will take those lessons forward into the next year. So what have I actually learnt and how am I going to improve? And then a bit of a review of my 2024 goal planning and how it fits into my planner system. So I've done all that. Then what I do is I go through and it was actually fairly easy this year because I had the breakdown of all the goals here, but go through any goals that I have set and then write them all out and then circle those that I've actually managed to tick off. What are the things that I have actually completed? So I've gone through, I've circled all those things. There are a few gaps there, and particularly towards the end of the year, there's a hell of a lot more gaps than there was at the start of the year. And then I've highlighted any that didn't stick. And what I've noticed is the ones that I've highlighted tend to be where I've scheduled time, but I've not necessarily used that time. So things like scheduling in hobby time, that went out the window as soon as I started uni work. Meditation routine's pretty much the same. I was doing that in the morning before work when everyone else had left the house. That's all gone now. So it's something that I'd like to get back into. We had a project plan for the concreting that didn't happen because we ended up with another big cost that we had to put the money towards. And also, the funny thing is, looking at this, it's the scheduling in time to actually work on the goal actions is something that I'm really bad of. I'm great at writing a list each week to say, these are the things that I would need to work on for my goals. So I'll write, well, there you go. I haven't even done that. I'll write a nice list of all the things that I need to do to tick off those goals, but then I'm not ticking them off. I'm not actually scheduling the time to get those things done. So this is a great review of what I wanted to do and what I've actually managed to achieve. And then from here, what I do is go through and look at, some people call it level 10 life, some people call it life wheel. I just like to call it my goal categories. So like, what are the different areas that I want to work on in the next year? What are the things that are important? What are the areas of my life that are important at this stage? Now, this is going to change for everyone. So, like if you've got little kids, then family time is probably one of those bigger things. And maybe self-care might be one of the things that you need to work on as one of your goals. If you're like me, whose kids have left or are just leaving home, then maybe those renovations and hobbies and those sorts of things are probably going to feature more. Or for me at the moment, it's study. If you are just leaving university and you're looking at getting into a career, it's those professional development things might be more important. So it very much depends on where you are in your life at this point in time. So what I recommend is, and I'm going to do that now, is to go through all that reflection that we've just done and underline any keywords, themes that keep coming up, whether it's in your strengths or in your weaknesses, those sorts of things. Just underline any keywords that keep coming up that you think, yep, that's important. Yep, that's important. I'm just going to stick some music on now and I'm going to go through and do that. Okay, so after going through that reflection and underlining words that were key, that stood out to me, it may not necessarily be the same sorts of things that stood out to you if you were reading those then. I've definitely got some key areas that I know I need to keep working on, and also things that bring me joy, the things that make me happy, and incorporating some fun into my every week. So what I'm going to do is I've done up a little graphic that I'll put in here now that just sort of gives you an idea of some different categories that you can have for your goals. So I'll put that in here now and I'll talk about those a little bit as well. So some of the things that I have decided that I'd like to carry forward, and realistically they're much the same as they were last year, but health and fitness is key for me, with my illnesses, of course. So at the moment it's really frustrating because I have been doing my physio, I have been working on my exercise, I have been losing a little bit of weight. I've been really good with all those sorts of things, and then just bending over to put washing in the machine, just the bending motion was enough for me to put my back out, and put it out bad enough that the doctor sent me straight for a CT. So I'm waiting for the results of the CT scan on that one. Means that I've had to have a whole week off work, had to take a hell of a lot more painkillers than I like to, and I'm just struggling to get things done, which is even more frustrating because I was really motivated to really push into the end of the year. So working on my health and fitness is probably a big one, especially the nutrition side of things. I have some GI issues that really need to be sorted out. The medication that I'm on at the moment is making it worse. So it's going to be something that I need to continue to advocate for. I definitely need to look at exercise. I did add in things like I wanted to put cycling into my exercise routine and those sorts of things. I'm not a fan of cycling. One, around here, it gets too hot or too cold. Summer, then there's snakes. There's a whole reason why I don't like cycling. Plus, it's hard work. But what I have done instead is start doing some cycling when I'm at the gym. So I'll add 10 minutes of cycling in while I'm at the gym. So I'm trying to work out how I can add in different types of exercise to work on different areas. Also really need to get back into my walking. And then, yeah, probably just health management, which is just making sure that I'm getting the service that I need from the doctors, but also making sure that I make those appointments, that I follow up. The doctors aren't going to tell me that I need to have my blood test done at this time or those sorts of things. I need to actually advocate for those sorts of things myself. Relationships is also one of those areas that I really need to prioritize. I am the sort of person that is happy to sit at home and not see another person for days on end. So I actually need to go out of my way to make time to catch up with friends, to make a phone call to a friend that's not in town, or make sure we schedule in a date night every month, those sorts of things. And this year being the year that both of my kids aren't going to be living at home, making sure that we have those regular family phone calls and those sorts of things is going to be really key. So the types of relationships, so marriage, no kids means we can go out for dinner a little bit more often. The kids, and then friends and family. Both myself and my husband have got parents that are getting that little bit older, that little bit more frail. So working out ways that we can keep helping them, even though they aren't necessarily close by. So that's something else that we need to work on. So something else, self-care is one of those things that gets dropped as soon as I start getting busy. So once I go back to uni, I know this year there were periods where I felt guilty if I took time for myself because I should be studying or I had an assignment that was due or something along those lines. So I didn't put a face mask on, or I didn't paint my nails, or not that that matters right at the moment, but just taking some time for myself is something that I struggled with. So even if it's something as simple as planning my wardrobe for the week, making sure that I feel good about myself when I step out the door to go to work, and yeah, me time. So looking after those things while I'm studying particularly. And also it sort of ties into that as well is fun. So making sure that there's things that I'm looking forward to. So some of that is travel. So we're trying to create a new tradition that we go on a family holiday once a year. So both of my kids, even though they're now at that age that they won't be at home and living with us, once a year having a family holiday where we all come together. That's something that we're trying to create. We did try to work on that this last year, but one of our cars got written off in an accident, so we ended up having to replace the car, which meant that the money that was for the holiday went elsewhere. So having, just even if it's a day trip, so getting out of the house again for a day, and even just things like hobbies, like doing things that I love to do. So whether it's cooking or watercolor painting or those sorts of things. So the other thing that I know I like to have as a priority, which also ties into my goals, is home and organisation. I'm not OCD about cleaning. Like my house, I wouldn't say is clean, but I like it to be tidy. My problem is I get really hard on myself if the house isn't tidy, but I also don't ask the other members of the household to help either. So that's something that I need to work on, is asking for help or asking others to share the load. We still have renovations that we need to do as well. So at the moment it will be that concreting that we need to bring into next year that didn't get done. We also have some cracking walls where it looks like part of the house has dropped a little bit, so we need to get that looked at. So no fun renovations, just practical stuff. So cleaning and also decluttering. I think, what is it? You can't clean clutter. So the less stuff that we have around, the easier it is to keep a clean house as well. And also in there is garden. My veggie garden is looking a little bit sad. I like to have my veggie garden looking nice, and we also have a really big front yard. We're on a corner block, so there's a lot of maintenance to do. So keep working towards a low maintenance garden is something that we need to do. And then probably the last area that I want to work on is personal development. And that includes, like, my new job is quite technical. I need to start looking at some of the skills that I need to upgrade to keep moving in that job. I've settled in. I've had a year now where I've gotten used to what the workload is, the sorts of areas that we cover, but I can't do any of the technical work at this stage. So that's something that I really need to do some extra study on. There's also my uni course, and even just things like reading for enjoyment. That's something that I need to make time for, and that sort of ties into that self-care bit up here as well. Last year I did also have in here finances as part of my personal development. It was the first year where I actually took responsibility for our budgets and making sure that we were doing a monthly budget and a paycheck budget and those sorts of things, putting money into savings, paying off debts, those sorts of things. So that was good for my development, just knowing that I could actually pick that up and run with it. So that's what we're working on. That's the areas that I think I am going to sort of frame my goals around, which is quite similar to last year. But even within those different categories, there'll be different emphasis. So this year, probably a lot more on the nutrition and exercise, on things like the relationships with the kids, and making sure that there's some fun in there as well. Okay, so from here, I'll be taking these categories that we've decided, or that I've decided that I'm going to be working on, and now I'm going to be going into projection. So we've done reflection, and now I'm going to be projecting into the future. So what that means for me is that I look at each of these goal areas and say, okay, what do I want it to look like a year from now? What do I want that to look like in an ideal world? What are the things that I would like done next year? What are the things that I don't want to look like in a year's time? So the anti-vision as well. So going through each of these things and doing a projection of what those things are. So that one's a little bit more writing. I'm going to leave that so that this video doesn't get too long. And then I'll show that in the next one. So it is time for me to go and take some more painkillers. I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye.